and welcome to the Beacon Salon Speaker Series. In Season 4, the series is the flagship community educational outreach program at Beacon College in Leesburg, Florida. The series brings together top minds and entertainers from Florida and around the United States to engage in discourse and debate in the spirit of the French salons of the 18th century. Beacon College is America's first accredited college or university dedicated to educating students with learning disabilities and ADHD. Foremost, however, Beacon is a rigorous liberal arts school ranked by U.S. News & World Report as a top college in the southern region. The Speaker Series honors the college's duty as an institution of higher learning to uplift the community, spark engagement, and sow seeds of conversation and discovery. In this installment, we'll explore and celebrate the life and times and work of three significant Latin and South American women: painter Frida Kahlo of Mexico, peasant activist Rufina Amaya of El Salvador, and poet Alfonsina Storni of Argentina. Tres Vidas, a chamber music theater piece, traces storylines including Frida Kahlo's dramatic and passionate relationship with painter Diego Rivera, Rufina Amaya's astounding singular survival of the massacre at El Mozote, and Alfonsina Storni's lifelong challenges as Argentina's first great feminist poet. With a script written by Chilean poet and writer Marjorie Agosin, Tres Vidas offers powerful portrayals of each woman and includes the singing of traditional Mexican folk songs as well as Argentinian popular and tango songs made famous by Mercedes Sosa and Carlos Gardel and others. The piece is performed by the Core Ensemble. Based in South Florida, the troupe has since 1993 produced and performed new music theater works based on multicultural, feminist, and humanistic topics. It has toured nationally and internationally and received the 2000 Eugene McDermott Award for Excellence in the Arts, awarded by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Please stay with us after this performance for a Zoom Q&A where you can ask Core Ensemble members questions. There's still time to register for the webinar. Visit beaconcollege.edu/salon and navigate to the Speaker Series icon. Now, the Beacon Salon Speaker Series is proud to present Tres Vidas.
Diego! Diego! The parrots have been brought in, and soon the night will fall slowly with the uncertainty of dusk. From beyond the hills, fragrances of the night begin to encircle me. My Diego does not arrive. Diego, are you there? Diego, where are you? Maldito cerdo, are you hiding somewhere? Here I am like a dummy whistling and calling to him. Hijo de la chingada, where the hell are you? Well, I will set the table, arrange the figs, watermelons, and cantaloupes. Food, like life, is a celebration. I will wait for him. I have waited for him a long time. Patience, patience. One cannot ask men to be faithful. especially painters. Even less can you expect from an ugly child who looks like a frog and whose name is Diego. Well, I will fan myself while I wait. Maldito cerdo. Maybe I should call some pals over and we can dance and sing. I will open the windows and yell, "Come to the house of Frida and Diego."
Mírame, quiéreme, bésame, morenita, que me estoy muriendo por esa boquita tan jugosa y fresca, tan coloradita, como una manzana dulce y madurita, que me está diciendo: no muerdas tan duro, no seas goloso, chupa que es más sabroso. Así me lo dice mi morenita, que me está diciendo que besa la condenada, que ese mordisco no sabía nada. Así me lo dice mi morenita. Mírame, quiéreme, bésame, morenita. Mírame, quiéreme, bésame, morenita. Ay, 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 ay. Mírame, quiéreme, bésame, morenita, que me estoy muriendo por esa boquita tan jugosa y fresca, tan coloradita, como una manzana dulce y madurita, que me está diciendo: no muerdas tan duro, no seas goloso, chupa que es más sabroso. Así me lo dice mi morenita, que me está diciendo que besa la condenada, que ese mordisco no sabía nada. Así me lo dice mi morenita. Mírame, quiéreme, bésame, morenita. Mírame, quiéreme, bésame, morenita.
Diego is very jealous. Jealous of Trotsky, jealous of Noguchi, jealous of all the men I have loved. But the women have never bothered him. Lately, I have become even more interested in love. Crazed passion, excessive desire, the desire that speaks through my body. It does not matter with whom you play the game of love, male or female. We are all quite androgynous, right? We all desire to journey through passion and discover the other. Mirrors on the water. My painting, the two Fridas. One Frida is the spirit of day, and the other, the spirit of night. One, the plenitude of light, and the other, the divine presence of darkness. I painted these two Fridas after separating from Diego. Who am I without Diego? Who is Diego without me? Maybe who is Frida without the other Frida? In the two Fridas, I have adorned and revealed myself. Diego loves the part that is adorned, the Mexico that I carry inside and outside of me. Diego loves the woman dressed as a Tejuana from the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, the woman who is both sun and moon. But I have also created the other Frida, darker, more sad and distant. Dressed in tulle, she is the European no one really knows. Yet we have two hearts joined by an artery. The European Frida slowly bleeds while the other one lives, her heart beating strongly. Life demands passions, exuberance, and great baskets of flowers. Whenever I finish a painting, I say, "Viva la vida! Long live life! Long live Diego Rivera! Long live obsessions!" I will write something about the color blue. Everyone calls this the blue house. It is blue like the Mexican sky, like feelings, like the water of the sea that moans and sings, overflowing with happiness. It is blue like the Virgin of Guadalupe's mantle. It does not have a north or a south. My house is a house for poets and not for bureaucrats. I love the unexpected and unpredictable. In my house, you will find monkeys, prickly pears, exquisite tortillas, and the skeleton greeting the guests. I love strong colors, the passion of vermilion, the incandescence of violet, and the audacity of orange. I paint and rejoice, rejoice and paint. My house has red floors, yellow walls, and the outside is painted cobalt blue to protect the good spirits and persuade the bad ones not to enter. I love my skeleton, which Diego calls my lover. It lives in my bedroom. Buenos días, esqueleto. We have a house full of puppets and dolls. Don't even ask me where I got them all from. Trusky used to be scared of them. In each corner of the house lie small and great stories. I recognize myself in every object and shadow. Everything is possible in this blue house. I even have a parrot that drinks tequila and says, I can't get over this hangover. I feel wonderful here and irresistible, deliriously tempted by the serpents that live in my own paradise. I was born in Mexico City, in the neighborhood of Coyoacán, in this blue house where I still live and paint. Paint and live, which are, in fact, the same thing. I was born in 1907, but I don't like that year. It is exasperating to have to celebrate your birthday based on the year in which you were born. So, I have told everyone that I was born in 1910, the year the Mexican Revolution began. I have vivid memories which have left a mark in my heart of the time when my mother opened the windows of our house, which faced Allende Street, so that Zapata's revolutionaries could come in. I yelled, Viva la Revolución! My mother blessed them, cleaned their wounds, and gave them thick tortillas, the only thing one could find to eat in our neighborhood then. My father, whom I loved above all things, was Guillermo Calo, a Hungarian Jew who came to Mexico. He was a photographer who chose to photograph buildings instead of people. He said he didn't want to improve what God had made ugly. And my mother was Doña Matilde Calderón y González, a devout Catholic who shared a marriage with an atheist Jew. To me, there is just one paradise, and it is here on earth. Have you noticed that I always wear long skirts and loose blouses? European fashions are for ladies who drink tea. I drink tequila like a real mariachi. And you know I have a limp, right? As a child, I had polio. There goes ugly Frida. That's what they used to say to me in school. And my limp helped me become more of a rebel and to yell even louder, Viva Mexico! And to hate the bureaucrats who know nothing. I was a happy and daring child. I loved to swing and slide and be filled with thirst. So many times people said, there goes Frida, the dove. The dove. But the dove died in one day, in an instant. September 17, 1925. I was with my boyfriend of the time, Alejandro Gomez Arias, when a trolley car crashed into the bus we were riding in. A metal bar tore my body in two. It exploded like a volcano, like a meteorite. One leg was broken in 11 places. My right foot completely crushed. I was 18. A painter on the bus in the accident spilled gold dust all over my naked body. Passers-by pointed and said, "Look at the ballerina like a golden angel." I survived that accident and everything changed. I became old in an instant. Before, I wanted to be a doctor, but I lost that illusion. For a long time, I was confined in a body cast. I could only move my head. I was a caged dove. I remember all the hospitals. I hold the record for operations. The bastard doctors who think they know everything can't stop my pain or mend my paw. Days became years. Friends would come visit me in the hospitals with marimbas and gifts, ceramics from Talavera, bells from Oaxaca. I always feel mad with life when I am surrounded by the people I love. I lose my patience with the serious ones. There is nothing more important in life than laughter. To laugh is to gain strength. One must make death laugh out loud.
Si al cielo subir pudiera, llorona, las estrellas te bajara. Si al cielo subir pudiera, llorona, las estrellas te bajara. La luna a tus pies pusiera, llorona, y con el sol te coronara. La luna a tus pies pusiera, llorona, y con el sol te coronara. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona, llévame al río. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona, llévame al río. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío. Las campanas, claro dicen llorona, sus esquilas van doblando. Las campanas, claro dicen llorona, sus esquilas van doblando. Si mueres, muero contigo, llorona, si vives te sigo amando. Si mueres, muero contigo, llorona, si vives te sigo amando. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona de azul celeste. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona de azul celeste, que aunque me cueste la vida, llorona, no dejaré de quererte, que aunque me cueste la vida, llorona, no dejaré de quererte. Ay. I was in bed for 2 years after the accident, and the boredom was just another form of pain. Only my imagination released me from the tedium. The accident taught me how to paint. I painted and painted. I painted my history. I painted my parents and my nanny. I began painting in my bed using an easel which looked like a flying horse and a mirror to paint myself. I painted the open and bleeding pain. I painted myself with passion and ecstasy. I painted a forest of green and golden dreams. What do I paint? Most of my paintings are self-portraits, and they are wrong who think that I paint the texture of dreams. I only paint myself. Nothing is imaginary. When I paint, I am in the world I want to be in. Mine is not a broken body. I am Frida Kahlo, the lame one who dances, the lame one who moans, the lame one who laughs. I thirst for happiness. Of all my paintings, I most love the one in which I look like an old child, trembling as I kiss my nanny's nipple. The sky is filled with stars. Her breast is a lost star, and her face is a mask of light and shadow. I love the dresses from Tehuantepec. Yes, that place where women wear gardenias in their hair, seduce men, and play with iguanas at home. In one of my early paintings, I drew myself wearing a velvet dress like a European. Now, I want to be Mexico and allow Mexico to invent me. The truth is, and don't be scared, all lives are like soap operas, not just mine. The difference is that I paint mine without taboos, without artifice. I look it in the eye. Here, death sleeps with me at night. Sometimes it smells of the rancid things of life. Sometimes it smells like mint. This is Mexico. Life and death, skeletons dancing in the holiday nights. I have always loved this land of volcanoes and brown mountains. Mexico has become more and more the Mexico without walls, a palace for queens and beggars. Europe is a bride with a face as white as death. And Mexico, a child of many colors. My house receives refugees and artists from everywhere. D.H. Lawrence, Sergei Eisenstein, Luis Buñuel, Weston, Artud, and Leonora Carrington. My dear Leonora. At night, I open the windows of my house in Coyoacán. ojos tiene debajo de esas dos cejas? Debajo de esas dos cejas, qué bonitos ojos tiene. Ellos me quieren mirar, pero si tú no los dejas, pero si tú no los dejas, ni siquiera parpadear. Malagueña, salerosa, besar tus labios quisiera, besar tus labios quisiera, malagueña, salerosa, y decir qué niña hermosa, ay, que eres linda. Que eres linda y hechicera como el candor de una rosa, como el candor de una rosa.
Maybe Mexico's greatest misfortune is being so close to the United States. I don't know what to say about El Norte, a country filled with the insipid rich and their arrogant machinery. Everything there is too planned. In their world of perfect clocks, no one would dare to be late, even to their appointment with death. I used to whisper things to the plumed ladies at the parties in Gringolandia. I would say to them, "Shit on you," and then pretend not to know what that means. Once, I was at a party in Detroit with Mr. Henry Ford, the most renowned anti-Semite, and I innocently asked him, "Are you Jewish?" This thing about the US being the country of freedom baffles me. In the hotel in Detroit, where Diego and I were staying, they had a sign saying that they don't allow blacks or Jews. We had them take that sign down. After all, both Diego and I have Jewish blood. Is that what they call democracy? Must admit, though, that the recognition of my art began in the United States, when important people began to collect my paintings. In Mexico at the time, only the machos were important. There was my Diego, of course, but also the painters Siqueiros and Orozco. I was only seen as Diego's wife. Diego paints pretty well for a big boy, but I am the real artist. Later, little by little, I was invited to participate in certain exhibits. There was a flower exhibit, of course. Women painters always participate in flower exhibits, right? Well, let me tell you, people were quite scared of my flowers. They were a little too subversive, too dangerous. They were exquisite flowers, delicious in their voluptuousness. Pornographic, said the proper ladies. Nah, just passionate, like men and women, flowers of life. Now the night is descending, and I await the arrival of the new day and of Diego. Diego is like a wonderful large frog. Women love Diego. How could I love someone who isn't attractive to other women? I loved him from the moment that I saw him painting at the scaffolding at the school I attended, and he came down the steps. Diego's my frog, my lover, my husband. I should not call Diego my husband, because that would be ridiculous. Diego has never been nor ever will be anybody's husband. He can't have just one woman. He has to have the whole universe. I like to watch him naked, stretched out in his dark, exquisite, childlike skin. The truth is that Diego is green, exquisitely green, and only his hands are yellow, tanned by the Mexican sun. I love to smell Diego, watch him eat tamales. I crush him against my chest and marvel at his body. It is very hard to trust Diego. He is not loyal because he doesn't know what loyalty is. Once Diego was even involved with my sister Cristina. Diego gets lost, but he returns. I have married him twice. He left me once. Second time around, there are no illusions. Diego, where are you? It's raining in Coyoacán. Or maybe the sky is crying. But I want to tell you that I will not die. I have left everything I am in my paintings. I have painted this land that belongs to all and to none. Frida Kahlo will not die. Dressed as a skeleton, she will dance down Reforma Avenue, and her friends will clap as she goes by. Domingo, Cristino, María Dolores, Marta Lilian, María Isabel. Domingo, Cristino, María Dolores, Marta Lilian, María Isabel. I am staring at my hands. I don't know if I am alive or dead. Everything is spinning around me. I don't recognize my own hands. Days become nights over and over again. They wanted to take my children. Are we in the time beyond day and night? I hear the sounds of bats and insects flying by and moaning. Who walks through the vines? Who walks through the vines? My heart leaps out. I can't remember my own name. Can anybody hear me? No sounds here, only Death's footsteps. Death, can you hear me? Time flows backwards. I am a woman in search of a name. I don't know if I should talk or stay silent. This is my name. Rufina Amaya. That is what my parents called me. They were from this land of Morazán. One has to follow dirt roads to get here. The land is rocky and hot. On the road to Morazán, they will tell you many things. They will tell you that at night, ghosts will appear, armed with knives to slice the throats of the living. They will also tell you that there is corn and maguey. In this town, before death settled down, there were fiestas. We would parade through the streets in the summer to the sounds of drums and flutes. We would go to the plaza to listen to marimbas, drink chicha, and eat tortillas. The children would hold on to their mother's arms. Life in El Mozote went on, with its great and little celebrations, with the history of the corn and the animals. We lived with joy. We all knew each other. There were no secrets in El Mozote. What I loved most was going to the plaza and discussing the things that were going on. Who had been born, who had died, or who returned. We never thought the whole town would die. Night came like a pack of wolves attracted to the blood. In El Mozote, little did we care about the guerrillas or the military. If we had to give some corn and chickens to the guerrillas, that's what we would do. But we were afraid of the guerrillas. We would give food to the army soldiers too. The soldiers spent a lot of time passing through El Mozote on their way to fight in the hills of Morazan. We all sold them food. We didn't know they would kill 700 people. The town looked like the land of the dead. That night, silence arrived. It took up residence in the trees. Not a stalk of corn was stirring. The soldiers had already burned all the nearby pastures, and it smelled of those things that creep in the night. That night, nobody left their homes. The soldiers sent us to our homes and said, "Don't make any sounds." We went home and did not even turn on the lamps. My children could not stop crying. They were hungry and cold. We could hear boots and laughter, the sounds of rifles and footsteps. All night, those sounds became part of our dreams. Fear gently rested on my shoulders. Morning arrived, and we thought they had left. I knelt on the ground and prayed to our good Lord. I had no food to give my children. We then heard the same sounds again. The sounds of fury, the sounds of pride, the sounds of soldiers. First, they took the men, and I could hear the soldiers laughing. Then the soldiers came back and started taking the women. They came for the women and the teenage girls. They said that they were taking us to La Cruz, the hill, but that we would later come back home. They were taking the women in small groups to the hills and raping them, all the while the soldiers laughed. Then, soldiers killed them. I was among the last group of women. I fell to the ground. I was on my knees praying. All the women were screaming and struggling, and the confusion saved me. I crawled, and 2 trees hid me. I spent many hours, maybe even a whole day in that position, but I knew I couldn't stay like that. The soldiers would find me. I tied my skirt, I tied my hair, and like an animal, I crawled. I had to crawl across the street and get to the jungle to hide. I crawled as if in a dream. I was very close to the soldiers. I could hear them breathing. A dog was next to me, and I was afraid it would betray me, but God made it be quiet. I can still hear the screams of the women who struggled on the ground. The town was shrouded in darkness, and there were bodies everywhere. I could not see. I could only hear. I wanted to die. I was silent for many hours, many days, as if I had become mute. My words abandoned me. Getting deeper and deeper into the jungle in the half-light, I began to remember the people I had loved. My dead family, the landscape my eyes recognized, the peace of the church's walls which had sheltered me. I knew they were taking Maria. The wind told me. The leaves looked scared. While they were raping her in the hill called La Cruz, the hill of the cross, she sang hymns to God. Then they shot her, and she seemed happy, still singing hymns of faith and grace. The soldiers could no longer look her in the eye as she kept singing, her voice rising with the wind. Again, they shot her, but Maria continued to sing under the shade of a tree on a carpet of her own blood. The soldiers grew scared, and in order to silence her singing, they slit her throat with a machete. Silence came over the dead earth. Who was I among the dead? Who am I among the living? I am Rufina del Mozote. I come to be heard. Sometimes my voice fades and it seems that I am not me, but I cannot stop naming these names. Domingo, Cristino, Maria Dolores, Marta Lilian, Maria Isabel. Here I come to talk. Let them not say that my story is untrue. Let them not say that my hair did not grow white from dusk to dawn. But I speak not to forget. And all my dead accompany me. in a few moments, I, Alfonsina Storni, will walk into the sea. Slowly, in an instant, I will let my feet sink in, my legs, my body, my hands. Maybe I will look at the sky one last time and start to remember, but it will be too late. I want to sleep in a sea that is clear like my destiny, dark like my fear, a deep rest of no return. Alejandro, my son, I must say goodbye to you. This final night is deep and sharp, very, very long, yet delightful.
Viejos cayó su voz para recostarte arrullada en el canto de las caracolas marinas. La canción que canta en el fondo oscuro del mar, la anemona. Te vas a Alfonsina con tu sombra. Como en sueños, dormida Alfonsina, vestida de mar. Cinco sirenitas te llevarán por caminos de algas y de coral, y fosforescentes caballos marinos harán una ronda a tu lado, y los habitantes del agua van a andar pronto a tu lado. Bájame la lámpara un poco más, déjame que duerma nodriza en paz. Y si llama a él, no le digas que estoy, dile que Alfonsina no vuelve. Y si llama a él, no le digas nunca que estoy, di que me he ido. Te vas a Alfonsina con tu sombra, que poemas nuevos
My poems are my testimony, my history, and my offering. We always go back to memories. I return to a territory called childhood, that place where we are supposed to develop our best virtues, where we live surrounded by magic and awe. I grew up like a little animal, without vigilance, bathing in San Juan's canals, climbing Queen's trees, sleeping with my head against vines. In that small village of San Juan, life went on without any great happenings or wonders. My adolescence was supposed to make me mature. I am not mature at all. I don't like the thought of being mature. Fruits mature and ripen. Poets don't. I worked from the age of 12 in a hat factory, washing dishes, as a secretary, finally a teacher. At 15, I spent 2 years as an actress traveling the country. I have always been an actress at heart. My pregnancy was the reason that I left the small town for Buenos Aires. I was only 19 at the time. The father was a married man. Only I know who he is. Who is the one I love? No one will ever know. You will look through my eyes and see the radiance of my ecstasy. I will keep that secret deep inside me, so you will never imagine who is inside my heart. I will keep it very deep inside me, very silently. Hour by hour, day by day, year by year, I will give you my songs, but never his name. He lives within me like a dead body within a tomb. He is all mine, distanced from curiosity, indifference, and evil. And there I was, 19 in Buenos Aires, the great city of lonely men and women. I threw myself at life with a deep desire to name, to live, to write. And what others thought, I never cared much for. I wrote stories, poems, plays, and newspaper articles. I tried several times what seemed impossible: to make a living, to care for my son, and above all, to write. I must admit, I am much more than a human being. I am a woman. It is impossible to be a thinking woman and not be a feminist. But we cannot live without men, the magnificent enemy. Did you know 3 men is just the right number for a normal, decent woman? Every woman should have at least 1 premarital affair, then a husband, then another man after her divorce. I highly recommend all this. I love the cafés of Buenos Aires, where the noises of the passers-by are confused with the sounds of dreams. The cacophony of the Café Tortoni, the passionate conversations without pause. A great part of my poems were written in these cafés with my pen and a napkin. At night in Buenos Aires, the women loved with madness. The women dared to dance a tango as if they were alone, as if no men were in their way. We would drink whiskey and dance until dawn. The men were very daring. They would even appear in public without wearing ties. early hours of the morning, I would go up to the piano and sing tangos.
Buenos Aires, cuando lejos te vi, solo hallaba consuelo en las notas de un tango dulce que lloraba el bandoneón. Buenos Aires suspirando por ti, bajo el sol de otro cielo. Cuánto lloró mi corazón escuchando tu nostálgica canción. Canción maleva, canción de Buenos Aires. Hay algo en tus entrañas que vive y que perdura. Canción maleva, lamento de amargura, sonrisa de esperanza, sollozo de pasión. Este es el tango, canción de Buenos Aires, nacida en el suburbio que hoy reina en todo el mundo. Este es el tango que llevo muy profundo, clavado en la más honda del criollo corazón. Buenos Aires, donde el tango nació, tierra mía querida. Yo quisiera poderte ofrendar todo el alma en mi cantar y decirle a mi destino al favor de que al fin de mi vida oiga el llorar del bandoneón entonando tu nostálgica canción. Canción maleva, canción de Buenos Aires. Hay algo en tus entrañas que vive y que perdura. Canción maleva, lamento de amargura, sonrisa de esperanza, sollozo de pasión. Este es el tango, canción de Buenos Aires, nacida en el suburbio que hoy reina en todo el mundo. Este es el tango que llevo muy profundo, clavado en lo más hondo del criollo corazón. My poems are like a tango. The nights of Buenos Aires are like a tango of abandoned loves.
Pain. I would like to walk along the distant ocean's shore on this divine October afternoon and let the golden sand and green waters and the pure sky see me walk by. To be tall, proud, perfect, I would like to be like a Roman to harmonize with the great waves and the dead rocks and the wide beaches that hug the sea. With a slow step and cold eyes, silently, I would allow myself to be carried away, to see how the blue waves crash against the sand and not stir, to see how the birds of prey devour the small fish and not sigh, to think that the fragile boats might sink in the waters and remain unmoved. To see him move forward, his throat exposed, the most handsome man, and not desire love. To lose one's gaze distractedly, to lose it and never find it again. And standing still between sky and beach, to sense the eternal oblivion of the sea. My pain is constant. This cancer gains ground, spreading from my breast, leaving me without strength. My right arm is paralyzed. My life is filled with howling. Every day it has become easier to resolve this debate between life and death. I have been planning every detail of my death, the time, the place, and the last poem, which will be published at the exact moment of my death. Everything must coincide. What remains a question for me is the funeral. Who will go? I dream about my son, my Alejandro. I rock him to sleep. I love him above all things. Alejandro, dream of me because I really need it. Alejandro, you will understand this path I must choose. What have I been? I was a dream of light and shadow. I was saved by beauty, the roughness of life, the pleasure of love. So many times I have asked myself what to do at the moment right before death. Do we cover the mirrors? Do I invoke the names of the living or of those who have already died? Do I invoke an absent God? Do I call Alejandro's name? Tonight I long for life and all of its useless quirks, but death longs for me. Death envelops me, saddens me, and delights me. It is 1 a.m. I see Alejandro's eyes. Alejandro is all that has held me to life. I am going to sleep. Flower's tooth, dew cap, hands of grass, you, fine nanny, ready the sheets of earth and the comforter of loose moss. I am going to sleep, my nanny, lay me down. Place a lamp on the headboard, a constellation, one that you like. All of them are good. Turn it down a little. Leave me alone. You hear the buds break? A celestial foot rocks you to sleep from above, and the bird traces some compasses so you can forget. Thank you. Oh, one request. If he calls again on the telephone, tell him not to insist. I am out. The sea is a chorus of secret whims and desires, of fluidity and ambiguity. Slowly, I immerse myself. I slide in completely. I arrive where I live. I become silence. I no longer believe in hours or desire. I only believe in the sea that holds me.
What a marvelous performance. You'll get your chance in a few minutes to ask questions about the three outstanding women portrayed and other questions about Corps Ensemble's works in our Zoom Q&A. First, a quick segment regarding why Beacon College might best suit the needs of someone you love with learning differences. For more information about Beacon College, visit our website at beaconcollege.edu. Meanwhile, it isn't too late to register to participate in our Zoom Q&A. Surf to beaconcollege.edu/salon and click on the Corps Ensemble event to locate the registration link. So it's about that time. Tonight, as usual, we have the Accent Entertainment team running the board and fielding the questions. So now, let's welcome the Corps Ensemble. Welcome, Michael and Rosa.
Hello.
Good evening. Hi.
How are you guys doing this evening?
Just fine, thank you.
Great. Well, I wanted to open our conversation first by saying bravo. That was terrific. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And my only regret is that COVID robbed me of the opportunity to see the powerful presentation in person.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully we will be able to be back to live performing sometime in the not so distant future.
Well, from your lips to God's ears. So let's get to it. My first question for you guys, and this is for Michael, I believe. Describe how Tres Vidas originated.
Well, we specialize in what we call chamber music theater, and it is the combination of a theatrical presentation and a chamber music presentation. And that's something that evolved over the years, so that really over the last 20 to 25 years, this is what we've been doing. Tres Vidas actually came together around the year 2000, so it's been going for quite a long time. But the template was put in place, which is the idea of a solo actress portraying real characters, in this case, three significant Latina women who you saw, Frida Kahlo, Rufina Amaya, and Alfonsina Storni. The first part of it was finding a writer, the wonderful Chilean poet Marjorie Agosin, who also worked with our script advisor and pianist Hugh Hinton on putting the script together. And Hugh also did the music research, which involving a lot of different pieces that we thought could work in this kind of setting by Latin American composers. We did have some original music written for us by living composers such as Osvaldo Golijov, which you heard in the show, in the Rufina scene particularly. And then it really was a question of putting the production together. Stage director Matthew Wright was the original director way back in 1999-2000. We put the show together actually quite quickly in a few weeks, and we performed it in its original version for 12 to 15 years. And about 5 or 6 years ago, we decided to shorten it a little bit. It used to be a little longer. It had an intermission. We changed it. We cut some things. We moved some things, mainly in the Rufina scene. We cut a few things in Frida, very little in Alfonsina. And what you see on the video is different in the sense from the stage show, in the sense that we don't play as much music on the video. We have musical interludes on the live show where we really are in between scenes where the actress is changing and we're transitioning to the other scenes. In this case, in the video case, we just decided we didn't want to have that. We wanted it to flow in a different way. And also in the video, you have visuals, which are not part of the live stage show. The live stage show is really words, music, and that's what you get. And I always put a plug in to our wonderful videographer, Patrick Avella, who did a fantastic job putting this thing together. And he also happens to be Rosa's husband. And so he just did a magnificent job keeping it in the family, so to speak. And what's been interesting also is that Rosa now directs other actresses in the show. So we sort of have a generational kind of thing that goes on with it as far as the live, when we get back to live performing. There are other actresses who do the show as well as Rosa, but they've been directed by Rosa. So that's a little bit of a thumbnail of how it goes. And of course, I want to also acknowledge our cellist, Ju Young Lee, and our pianist, Mikhail Darmani, who did this. And when we put it together, it was done where Rosa did the songs with us in the studio, but then she did the narratives in front of a green screen. And that was a whole separate session that did not involve the musicians. So it was a very different experience than putting together a live show, which is really pretty much the standard way that you would build a musical theater piece, any musical theater piece that you might see on Broadway or whatever.
Very good, thank you. And I love that all in the family line. That's great. So Rosa, on first blush, beyond the Latin bloodlines, there seem to be few overt threads tying these three women together. Why these three women?
Well, actually, when I came to join Core Ensemble and put in this show on stage, it had already been running for a few years, and they had already put together the three stories that made it up. I guess Mike can tell you more about why they were chosen. But as far as I know, Mike, can you correct me if I'm wrong? You worked with Rufina first, or was it Frida first?
No, it was Rufina first. We actually did a piece about Rufina Amaya prior to doing Tris Vitas. Mm-hmm. And it was actually a big dance piece that we did back in 96, 97. And Osvaldo Golihof, the composer, was the person who knew about the El Mazote story and introduced us to it as a very dramatic story. When we decided to go with the template of the solo actress and the trio alone, that's when we wanted to have multiple characters. Frida was an obvious choice in terms of Latin American women. Alfonsina Storni we knew nothing about, and one of our original collaborators was Argentinian, and she brought up the idea of Alfonsina. Then, of course, we knew the famous song Alfonsina El Mar, and then her dramatic life and how and all of that. That became an easy choice. But actually, when we researched this in the very beginning, there was very little information in English in the United States. This was pre-internet days. And so there was literally, there was not a single biography in English about Alfonsina in 1999, 2000. So fortunately, Marjorie Agosin is very fluent as Chilean, and she also is very fluent in Spanish, so she was able to, research in a more detailed way. But that's how the thing came together. It was Rufina first, and then Frida, and then Alfonsina, and that's how we put it together. And somebody said, well, why don't you do a show about this one, or why don't you do a show about that one? And I said, well, that's another show. That's a different show, which we actually do have. We have another Latin American women show called Las Magnificas with different characters. But we found that this format with the three women has worked very, very well.
All right, thanks, Michael. I'll go back to you now, Rosa. As an actress, how difficult is it to play through roles in one production of three women who, what I see they have in common is this thread of sadness and tragedy in their life, but also this thread of independence and of success. What do you channel when you're playing each of those three different women?
Well, it is challenging to play three different roles and have to switch between one and the other, and because they do have things that are alike, but they are also very different. So it's all in the preparation. I mean, the way that I approach it and the way that I would imagine a lot of actresses would is you find what connects you to each one of them. And whether it's one or a couple of qualities, objectives, and then you just hone it in at the moment of you have a little moment where you put yourself together physically, and then you kind of mentally transform. Also, you remember who you are, where you are, what do you want, or what you're doing, and then you go on. You know, you have Frida, she's waiting for Diego, and you start there, and then you have Rufina, who's looking for her children, and then starts remembering, and then you have Alfonsina, whose objective is to release and remember a little bit about her life and then go. So, yeah, it's you prepare and then you go in and then you let go and be in the moment.
All right. Well, let's go see if we have any questions from our audience. Are there any out there this evening, Ron?
There is. Someone asked, when did Frida die?
1954.
All right, well, let me do a quick follow-up. I don't recall whether you guys addressed it specifically in the show, but what was her cause of death?
Frida's cause of death?
Yes, Frida's.
Go ahead, Russell, do you want to take that?
Well, as far as I know, she was already late 40s. She was debilitated by years of struggles with operations after the accident, and she had, I believe she had some kind of pneumonia, complications of that sort. Although, I mean, there's mixed opinions. There are theories about her having trouble with painkillers and such, you know, so there's like rumors of sort of semi-suicide, but she was very debilitated by her problems, her pains, and her surgeries. Yes.
She was just in tremendous pain, you know, just tremendous and bedridden, and, you know, at the end, and just in very, very bad shape, you know. And so it's amazing that she lived as long as with the, you know, that debilitating, you know, accident, the bus accident. And then she tried to have children, and she had, I don't know how many miscarriages and all of the other things that went on. It's astonishing she lived as long as she did, you know. And it wasn't easy being, you know, in my opinion anyway, it wasn't easy being her, you know. And Diego was quite a handful, and all of that activity that they were involved with politically, personally, being artists, the artistic temperament.
Yeah, they had intense lives. They were big personalities, big passions, big issues, big fights, and so.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Well, let's stay on Frida for a moment. Well, Frida lived a colorful and complex life, as you guys portrayed, that was influenced by her family, her accident, her personal relationships, the Mexican Revolution, living in New York and in Mexico, teaching, and her education. What was the most challenging aspect of portraying her life in this condensed format?
Personally, I mean, I believe every actress that works in the show, due to her own, when you act, you bring in your own essence, so everything's gonna be colored by who you are. So personally, and Mike can attest to that, the most challenging part of it for me to play Frida was to bring her fire and her toughness out. And that was a process of a few seasons for me to like get really warmed up to her. I tend to be more on the gentle, cerebral vibe essence, and Frida's very fiery and very tough. I tried to channel more of a masculine energy. That's kind of what worked for me. So that was both challenging and fun to do.
Very good. Frida painted a lot of self-portraits, and you know, in our day and age, we might see that as being pretty narcissistic. But was that really the root behind her focusing on herself as her principal subject?
Well, I believe that she was trying to express her truth, and she was the subject that she knew the most. So I see it more as she was just trying to portray truth, to portray the world the way she saw it, and she saw it through her eyes, and she saw it through her experience. So she did portray herself, but if you look at her paintings, she didn't make herself into this gorgeous creature. She painted herself very realistic and sometimes exaggerated her unibrow and her mustache, and it was all about the nature around her and her animals. So yeah, that's interesting. Some people call her the grandmother of the selfie, because it's kind of like those what we would call selfies today. But yeah, she had definitely that celebrity way about her.
And that she's been the inspiration for for generations now of female celebrities. You know,
Absolutely.
just no question. Yeah.
Rosa, if you were asked what type of person Frida Kahlo was, how would you describe her?
She was a trendsetter. She was a leader. She was authentic. She was a person that knew who she was, and she was unapologetic. That's what I admire about her the most.
How about you,
powerful.
Michael? Powerful, yeah.
Yeah, powerful. You know, that was one of the things that we talk about as far as even the three women in the show. It's very powerful women, and that's a very important point. Who really took charge of situations. Even Rufina, you know, after she was the one who spoke out, told this story that no one wanted to, you know, many, especially the authorities, did not want to hear. You know, Alfonsina Storni, she decided to leave this world at the time of her choosing. You know, it was her decision. Frida was just, you know, incredible, a kaleidoscope of all of these powerful actions and powerful things that went on. So just very powerful. That's the word.
And she was a force.
Yeah.
Well, I would certainly agree with that. And Kahlo is now recognized as a valued artist, but during her lifetime, her paintings didn't get much attention. To what do you guys attribute this late recognition and current popularity of her artwork?
Well, I mean, for one, it is undeniably good, valuable. It's real expression of the essence of that person and her experiences, and it's art that moves and that tells a lot. I mean, it wasn't recognized in her own time, I guess, because of the place that women had in society at the time. She was the wife of, you know, Diego Rivera, and but as time went on, I guess it was just noticed, and it was undeniable that it was good stuff. And also, I believe celebrities started noticing and collecting it, and it took off.
Yeah, and you know that we have that the lines in the show where, you know, they were always expected, women were always supposed to paint flowers and be at flower shows, and now there she is painting like the two Fridas, and you know, that ain't a flower show, you know.
There was no lady painter.
Yeah, she was not, and so that was a kind of the evolution, an interesting evolution of what we, you know, I might call, for lack of a better term, the modern woman. You know, and that's why you have this disparate personalities, like somebody like Madonna, and some of these, you know, other iconic female figures of the late 20th century take so much inspiration from Frida Kahlo, and that's and that recognition just has snowballed. And I would dare say now that she's, I don't know if I'm voicing, she's a more significant artist than Diego is, I mean, in terms of just her impact, which is really saying something, because Diego is really quite something himself. But that you would 100 years ago or 70 years ago, you would have never made that assessment. It wouldn't. I don't want to say it wouldn't have been allowed, but it would have been very, very in the minority to make that kind of an assessment.
Great. Let me check with Ron. Any other questions so far? Oh, all right. Then I guess I'll continue our wonderful conversation. Let's move on to Rafina Amaya. Now, you guys went over in the production how the massacre happened on December 11th, 1981. I wanted to read a bit from a New York Times dispatch about the massacre. And it reads, "It was a great massacre. 38-year-old Rafina Amaya told a visitor who traveled through the area with those who were fighting against a junta who now rules El Salvador. They left nothing. Somewhere amid the carnage were Mrs. Amaya's husband, who was blind, her 9-year-old son, and 3 daughters, ages 5 years, 3 years, and 8 months. Mrs. Amaya said she heard her son scream, 'Mama, they're killing me. They've killed my sister. They're going to kill me.' She said that when the soldiers began gathering the women into a group, she escaped and hid behind some trees in the back of the houses." For years, the U.S. government and the Salvadorian junta denied the massacre had even occurred. Yet Amaya, until her death at age 64, spent 25 plus years telling the world about the slaughter. And this is to both of you. What drove her to stand up against this wall of denial?
Well, as far as I could research, and there are some videos out there of her actually speaking, telling the story on YouTube and such. She was a religious person, and she prayed for God to save her. And then when she survived, she said that she knew that her purpose was the reason why she survived was that she was supposed to tell the story. So I guess it was a thing of faith. She said, I have to tell the story, and I have to tell it as many times as I need to so that I can be heard. And that's what she did.
Yeah, I think again it's that idea of that power that she had to survive something like that, and to just be determined that that this should be acknowledged. And I think we always talk about this as, the people who were the most inconvenienced by this, of course, were the Americans, because they were backing the Salvadoran government. Remember, this was in the Cold War, and there was this tremendous concern that El Salvador was going to go the way of Nicaragua and become a communist country. And so we, when we do the live shows, we drive around the country. We fly, we drive. But whenever we're in Columbus, Georgia, and we drive past Fort Benning, I always say this is where the soldiers were trained who were involved with El Mozote. And I live in the West Palm Beach area, and several of the retired generals who were involved with all of this back then have lived a very comfortable retirement, not very far from where I live. So it's been a very interesting kind of experience to have that be literally a living history that we've been involved with this project.
All right, well, I have 2 remaining questions, and these are centered on Alfonsina Storni. In Storni's earlier works, she often negatively emphasizes sexual passion and love. But were her views on male-female relationships always negative?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say they were always negative. I mean, I would say they were colored by her experiences. She had a rough life. She was a very young woman that fell for a married man, ended up having a child, raising the child as a single mother at a time where that was unheard of, and having lovers and male friends, and probably being chastised quite a bit, and having to go through like rough situations and rough times. So I guess she had a lot of feelings toward men that were negative, but at the same time she had loves, and she had a son that she loved. So I wouldn't say it was always negative. I would say she was more of she was pro women. Like she understood that female had a power, and that they were equal to men, and they could do what men could do, and she demonstrated it with her own life. So more than negative toward men, I would say she was a feminist. She was ahead of her time in that sense.
Yeah, we always say that she's the first feminist poet of Argentina, and she was creating work, and she was, mixing with men, in a male-dominated society, the Latin macho type culture, and we always say she would be at a place like the Cafe Tortone, and writing poetry, and hanging around with these mostly male artists, and women were not, part of that group. We have an example in the early 20th century. The other character that we feature in one of our other shows, of course, is Zora Neale Hurston during the Harlem Renaissance period. It was just women were not, were not accepted in the way that they're, accepted today. They were trailblazers in that way, and they suffered, they suffered a great deal. But equating that with hating, well, especially not hating men, but but having having had negative experiences, I think it's a mixed, it's a mixed bag. I mean, negative, positive. When you hear her poem, "Who is the one I love?" I mean, I just don't get the impression that that's someone who hates men by any stretch of the imagination. So it's complicated.
Thank you very much for that. Well, my last question, in her later poems, Storni frequently makes reference to the sea. And faced with her terminal breast cancer, as you guys pointed out, she walked into the ocean at the seaside resort of Mar del Plata and drowned. My question is, do you guys think that her poetry was foreshadowing her death? As you said, taking a measure of agency in how she wanted to go out.
Well, I bet she had a deep connection with the sea. I mean, and her work shows it, and I imagine that she chose to drown herself or to walk into the sea for that same reason. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she at some point thought, if I ever had to go, this is the way to go, and then she got to do it. That I wouldn't be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree with that.
All right. Well, Michael and Rosa, I really appreciate you guys joining us this evening to talk about Tres Vidas, and I certainly wish Core Ensemble great success going forward, and I can't wait to see you guys have the opportunity to perform again in front of people instead of just the boob tube. So good luck to you, and thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And this concludes our broadcast tonight of the Beacon Salon Speaker Series. And in fact, this particular episode concludes our 2020-2021 season. We will be back again in the fall with our 2021-2022 season with more great lectures and more great performances. We thank you for joining us this evening and for joining us this season, and we look forward to seeing you again next year. For Lakefront Television, I'm Darrell Owens. Good night. They were, yep, for a second. Okay.